Hi everyone, I hope you all are doing well and all of you are safe and healthy during this time. This is Radhika here again, and this video is going to be about the orphan complex. So, someone requested this video, and so I'm making it, and it does make sense to make this video because if you are in a narcissistic situation or if you have grown up in a narcissistic family, you are bound to have this orphan complex in you. So, we will describe a little bit of what it is and how do you kind of get out of it, do you deal with it, etc. Um, so, as we all know, orphan is a child who does not have a family or does not have parents, does not belong to a certain place, who doesn't experience having a stable, solid foundation, a loving family, a support system, etc. Right? That is what we think about when we think of an orphan. Um, so most of us have a part of us which falls into this category, because no matter how good your life has been, there's always a little bit of an orphan inside all of us. And if you have grown up in a narcissistic family, you might not be an orphan. You might have had a family growing up, a support system, so called support system around you, but still, even in that support, in that environment, a part of you could have felt orphaned, which was a part of you that was not understood by that support system, or that was not um, accepted by that support system, that was not heard by your support system, that was not seen by your support system. So all of these abandoned parts of yourself are the parts that will make up your orphan complex. And then, obviously, if you have grown up in a family where maybe you were an orphan in your childhood and you went into like a foster family, or you were adopted by a family, or say you lost your parents at a very young age and then you had to live with other relatives of yours, or say your parents were in the village and they kind of sent you over to some relatives in the city so that you can have a better education system of the city, etc. Or there's a movie called Dear Zindagi, which is a very good movie if you want to see it. In that, the girl has an orphan complex because the parents, they moved to Dubai to work, to earn more money, and then while they are in Dubai, they kind of keep her with her grandparents in India. And so she feels the separation from her parents, and then they kind of suddenly come back in her life, and all of that is very jerky for her, and she develops an orphan complex and a resentment towards her family because of that shifting that happens in her childhood. So, an orphan complex can develop due to a number of reasons. It could also happen because maybe you always had a stable family. Say your parents were always there, your grandparents were always there. But say it was an extremely volatile environment where your grandparents were always fighting with your parents, your mom was always crying, and your dad was getting upset and leaving the house, or it could also be because, say, you were living with your grandparents but one of them had like a ailment which was very difficult, like say they had dementia or something like that, and you had to see the nurse taking care of your grandmother, and your parents were working very hard to make ends meet. So your mom was cooking all the time, your dad was in his office work all the time, you were alone by yourself, you didn't have anyone to go to, etc. So it could be a lot of traumatic conditions in your childhood that create opportunities for you to be unseen, unheard, unacknowledged, not taken care of, feeling a sense of instability, not belonging to the environment you are in. Um, and then, of course, there could be narcissistic situations where someone is intentionally targeting you. So, intentionally, you were made the scapegoat in a particular situation because maybe you were different than your family, or you didn't buy into their cult like behavior, or you were a child who was just different, so to speak, from them. So all of these are the causes of the orphan complex. So in a nutshell, what is orphan complex? All parts of you in your childhood which felt ignored, uncared for, unseen, unheard, unacknowledged, not accepted, denied, rejected, shamed, all of these parts of you create your orphan complex. So, obviously, from this definition, you can understand that someone who has been in a narcissistic situation is going to have a much bigger orphan complex. And a person who has been in a family where they were more accepted, more seen, all parts of them were accepted. If they were naughty, it was okay. If they are behaving well, it's okay. If they back answer the parents, it's okay. If they are grumpy, it's okay. So if the child feels accepted in many things, then the orphan complex is going to be smaller. I'm not saying it will be completely absent. It might be um, smaller. So if the child really like kills an animal, right, or is really cruel to someone, maybe that cruelty part will still be unaccepted by that family. um, but it'll be small, and that might be like, oh, sometimes when I'm cruel, I'm not accepted by my family, but that's okay because it keeps me in line. So if the child understands that, then their orphan complex will completely be gone. So that is the orphan complex in people. Now, this is an important topic. Why? Because Carl Jung, who's a great psychoanalyst of the olden times, he actually presented certain archetypes. So I want to read it out to you, like what is the meaning of an archetype. So I'm just reading it out from an article. Jung believed that archetypes come from the collective unconscious. He suggested that these models are innate, universal, unlearned, and hereditary. Archetypes organize how we experience certain things in life. So, according to Jung, we all have certain hereditary things which we pick up from the collective unconscious. And in this unconscious, he categorized things into 12 archetypes. And one of the archetypes that he talks about is the archetype of the orphan. And it's an archetype that collectively we all relate to a big degree, and depends on how much of an orphan complex you carry inside yourself because of your family, your situation, and obviously that comes from how much of orphan archetype your parents carry in their unconscious, right? Because that is what is being put down on you. So so basically all of these things uh, put this archetype in your brain, like the archetype of the orphan, etc. So the orphan archetype is very important because it resonates a lot with the collective as a whole, right? So that's why, if you take for example the story of Harry Potter. Harry Potter is an orphan, right? And the villain of the story, Voldemort, he's also an orphan. And it's very interesting because Dumbledore is like the middle sage, or he's like the magician. Magician is another archetype in Carl Jung's 12 archetypes. He's the person who sees Harry as a kid, as a child grow up, and he also sees Voldemort as a child grow up, and both of them are orphans, but when they grow up, they choose very different paths to go on. Harry chooses the path of, you can say, love and light, and Voldemort, on the other hand, chooses the path of darkness, of power, of control, where he's trying to control the masses, by his destruction or terror, etc. Um, and we all know how popular the Harry Potter books got. So basically, the orphan archetype is a very powerful one, and it's powerful because throughout history, humans have not been very accepting of each other. There have been wars, there have been countries that partitioned and separated, and there have been refugees who are pushed around from one country to another. Now imagine how much of a orphan archetype does that collective get. Like, if we are talking about certain refugees who moved from one country to other country, how much of an orphan complex they must have felt, where their entire homeland was taken away from them in a matter of a few days, and they had to move countries, make another house, start from zero, right? So the orphan, a great quality of the orphan is that the orphan has choice, because the orphan does not have a parental guiding force on them. The orphan often has a vast choice of which way to go. The orphan can choose the right thing to do, or they can choose the wrong thing to do, but there's no parental figure over them actually watching over their actions. And so what happens is the orphan has to develop an inner parent. And the same theme you can actually see in Game of Thrones if you kind of compare Jon Snow to Theon Greyjoy, and they both kind of act as orphans in the series. From the first book to the last book. I mean, it's not come out yet, but basically you can see their progression throughout all the books. And Jon Snow, although he falters here and there, he chooses wrong, this, that, but the rebirth that they have shown is they have shown that he has now become his own father in a way. He has become Ned Stark because that was the real father that he could relate to. And he has become like Ned Stark, very much walking on the path of discretion, very much doing what is the right thing, etc. And Theon Greyjoy, he's always confused. He's not sure. But then he meets his elder sister, and then finally, because of his elder sister, he's able to awaken that inner parent in himself. And so basically, the story of the orphan always goes along the line where they are like in this innocent state where they have like infinite opportunities in front of them to explore. They can do this, they can do that, they can go this way, they can go that way, and they are stumbling. They're stumbling across life, and they're stumbling more than others because they have this lack of a parental guidance on them. And while stumbling, some of them go on the wrong path. So you can say, like the narcissists, most of them have lacked a good parenting in their childhood, and they choose the dark path. They choose the path of control, they choose the path of, like trying to blame others, shame others, guilt others, control them in different ways through emotional manipulation, financial manipulation, etc. Or they can become um, like the balanced empaths who are seeing through the BS and kind of trying to live their life in a balanced way, at the same time trying to help others as much as they can, and trying to live like a balanced life which doesn't create so many bad effects for other people. So I guess that's why empaths relate a lot to the orphan complex, and they feel orphaned a lot of times because because of the circumstances in their life. So yeah, I think it's a big topic, and it's a topic that you can all kind of experience in your day, in your day-to-day life sometimes. And the way to kind of get out of the orphan complex, as I kind of explained in the examples. So if you see the example of Harry Potter, whenever he goes to Ron's house, he feels that lack in him, of having a warm family, of having people who care for him. But what he does is he accepts his situation. He accepts he's an orphan, but he also accepts the love that he gets from Ron's mother or Ron's father or his sisters, brothers. And he kind of tries to create his own tribe around him. Now, it might not be the same level of love that Ron gets from his mom, but Harry learns to make do with whatever he gets. So, if you are an empath, you might not have the love that you wanted from your mother, father, your family situation, maybe your husband, your wife, whichever situation you are in. But my point is, whenever you get that love from somewhere else, like say you get it from a coworker, or say you get it from a distant aunt of yours, or you get it from a neighbor, or from a friend of yours, and you feel that this love is very maternal, this is very paternal, this is very like a sibling, you know, uh, accept that love and keep that vibration within you, and remember those moments when you felt um, that beautiful love that you craved in your own life situation, and kind of create like a memory bank of all of those different types of loves that you received from the universe in different ways, and use that to make up for the lack of love that you have in your life situation, etc. So that's pretty much what you can do, one of the things you can do. And the other thing you can do is, obviously, you can find that love within yourself. So try to awaken the inner mother, the inner father, the inner grandmother, the inner grandfather, the inner siblings that you have inside of you, and create that sort of a comfort zone and comfort feeling and stability within yourself. Um, and then once you have mastered that technique, you will definitely feel a lessening of your orphan complex, and you will find a stability in that kind of love that you have found within yourself. You might use triggers from the outside, but the love is always inside of you, and you just have to kind of find the right keys to unlock that inside you. So I hope this helps you in some way. And as always, I wish you all a lot of love and a lot of light. Thank you. Bye.